Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to another Supatease video. And in this one, I'm going to be bringing you the top 10 2v2 double DPS arena composition. So if you're interested in a challenge, this can be one of the most entertaining and challenging activities to do in World of Warcraft, period. You get a buddy, they play a DPS spec, you play a DPS spec, no healers, no tanks. You jump into arena, you try to do your best to maximize your damage and your healing with the limited resources that you've got to pull out a win. This is easily some of the best experiences that I've had from the game is playing double DPS arena composition. So in this, I'm going to be going over my top 10 combinations of DPS specs. If you're looking to perform well and take on this challenge, then these compositions are ones that I think you should look out for or look to try. So let's get started here. Moving in at number 10. We've got the Shadow Priest and the Mage. Now, Shadow Priest is a very powerful specialization, period, in my mind in PvP, if not just outright the best in all regards and aspects of the game. It's going to be bringing a lot of instant crowd control and lockdown. And the main reason that this composition, I think, belongs in the top 10 for double DPS is that the Mage can start the fight from invisibility with a polymorph on an enemy target, while the Shadow Priest locks down the target you're trying to kill with Psychic Horror and Silence. With all of the instant cast burst damage available to Shadow Priests, Frost Mages, Fire Mages, or Arcane Mages, you get immediate crowd control off the bat, and you can follow it up with a ton of damage. If you need to reset, Shadow Priest provides a lot of utility in terms of off healing with Shadow Mend, especially if you go after some of the healing legendaries like the Shadow Mend legendary. This is a composition that you can look to kind of set up burst damage, retreat away, recover, look to push in for another setup of burst damage, and it comes in at the number 10 slot. Moving in at number 9, we're going to be seeing a lot of this Shadow Priest, but in this case, actually a Retribution Paladin. Now, in my mind, Retribution Paladin is going to have a lot more longevity than that of the Mage, as Word of Glory at the moment is doing a huge amount of healing, and I mean a huge amount of healing. When you take two hybrids like this, it's actually a bit of an anticipation for me in updating my 3v3 tier list to include more hybrid compositions, because the healing output from a lot of them is so high that you can basically substitute yourself out as a healer, and that's very important when you're not playing with one, to have a lot of off healing in your composition. So this is one that just has a huge crowd control chain with Hammer of Justice into Silence. I'm curious to see if anybody opts to run Night Fae Retribution Paladin to get the extra mobility on Vulpin, but also through one of their Soulbind conduits can get a charge stun, and that charge stun is on its own diminishing return. It's a 4-second stun, so you can go 4-second stun into 6-second Hodge into, I believe it's 5-second Silence. That's a long time to tunnel a healer in, and Retribution Paladin can escape crowd control with Divine Shield to stay on the target during that time, use Blessing of Sacrifice and Blessing of Protection and Sanctuary to protect the Shadow Priest and get the Shadow Priest out of crowd control. You can really just ram through with a lot of damage in that extended lockdown period of time, which is why I think that this composition could be a deadly healer killer in 2v2, but even still, it has a lot of counterplay to rogues, which are powerful because Dispersion, Fade, Divine Shield, Blessing of Protection, these immunities will get you through that initial phase of an enemy team attacking you, and you can just support it with Word of Glory healing, Shadow Mend healing, and Vampiric Embrace healing. So it comes in at number 9. Moving in at the number 8 slot, we're going to have Shadow Priest Affliction Warlock. Affliction Warlock, a little bit more mobile than the Retribution Paladin, and has a lot of self-sustainability with its own kind of regenerating effects like Drain Life. I think this will synergize well with the legendary that allows the corruption from the Affliction Warlock to slow targets, and it's more or less a dot and rot, the same as 3v3. Get as many dots out onto targets as you can and then avoid them. Keep them away from yourself as long as possible. Watch them whittle down. Whichever member of this team is not being attacked needs to be aggressive on the enemy team's healer, or just to be aggressive in general, while the person who's being attacked should look on defense and avoiding damage. And with Demonic Circle coming back baseline for Affliction Warlock, with Demonic Gateway and all of these slow effects from the corruption, I think that this is a composition that would be a lot of fun in 2v2 as well as 3v3, as I've talked a lot about it there as well. Moving in at number 7, we are going to be seeing the Rogue Retribution Paladin. This is going to be much more punchy and a lot more reliable on getting away. And the main reason this is really deadly is because both these specializations do a ton of damage up front and can go completely immune while doing that damage. You use all of your aggressive cooldowns, Shadow Blades, Cloak of Shadows at the same time, and you're immune to crowd control, evasion. You just pump all these immunities and these huge damage boosts, and you've got 10 seconds of let's go. Most things are probably going to fall over to that. And then if they don't, the rogue can reset going into stealth. The Retribution Paladin can heal himself for a lot with Word of Glory. So it's a composition that's just going to have a lot of upfront damage and the possibility to run away and reset, which is important in the double DPS meta if you're interested in running a double DPS composition. Moving in at the number 6 spot, we've got Shadow Priest and Feral Druid. Feral Druid, also a hybrid, similar to the Retribution Paladin with a lot of off healing. However, its ability to reset is going to be more consistent, and its ability to escape and kind of get these hit and runs, which is why it's a bit higher on the list here. I put it with the Shadow Priest. Again, if you're running a Night Fae Feral Druid, you may opt for that charge stun Soulbind, and you can get that charge stun into a Rake stun, into a Shadow Priest silence. And I don't know of any healer in the game that's really surviving 15 seconds of a Feral Druid and a Shadow Priest just going at them. You can use Psychic Scream on DPS. You have Cyclone baseline, and most importantly, for Feral Druid's viability in 2v2 is Heart of the Wild. So you can activate Heart of the Wild for 45 seconds, and your Resto Affinity, you're basically a Resto Druid for 45 seconds, and you bring in some healing legendaries like the Shadow Priest Shadowman legendary. You can just kind of heal yourself, keep yourself going, jump in for multiple attacks, and I'm actually a bit interested to see how 2v2 pans out. It might be the case that a lot of double DPS comps end up actually being better than healer DPS if things stay the way that they are on the beta. Moving in at the number 5 slot, we're halfway through the top 10. We've got the Rogue Hunter. This is one that is very similar to a lot of the other double DPS comps where you can start from stealth, which is a great advantage, allowing yourself to sap a target and then just open with a ton of damage as marksman subtlety. And the main reason that this one's even more deadly is that I don't know if this is going to go live like this, but Shadowy Duel with Hunter's Mark allows the hunter to see the rogue's target while Shadowy Dueled, and it's 2 versus 1. And you can't trinket Shadowy Duel. So you've got a huge window of time to just pump out and just lock and load, take somebody out. Then as soon as you've taken somebody out, you blind the healer, freezing trap, maybe you killed the healer, crowd control the other target, run away, camouflage, vanish, reset, and this is going to be a huge amount of damage. And this composition is one that I think is likely to also be really strong in 3v3. You cut out the healer, it gets a little bit more intense, but it's still got all of the same strengths. And I think survival is a decent substitute if you're not interested in playing marksman, or you're a bit worried about marksman right now getting nerfed with how it's currently placing. I think this is a comp that you could still work with survival, which is why I included it. Coming in at number 4, we've got the Windwalker and the Feral Druid. I wanted to include a Windwalker composition here. It's a bit hard to include every spec because it's only a top 10, but I did feel like a Windwalker composition and double DPS is a lot of fun because it brings all of the same things you would ask for in this particular strategy, which is the ability to run away, retreat, support, get a ton of burst damage out. It has instant crowd control. The Venthyr Covenant, the Fallen Order for the Windwalker monks is basically the other team needs to use every cooldown to survive it or they die. So you can start this engagement with that Fallen Order. The other team is just left in shambles while you run away and reset and heal along with the Feral Druid, and Heart of the Wild is going to buy you more than enough time to do that. And then as soon as all their defense is down from that, you then move in, you roll forward, maybe Berserk from the Feral Druid, get them down to the Touch of Death execute range, and you net yourself a win. I mean, these are both specializations that are great at 1v1. You pair them together, I can only imagine how much more awesome that is going to be in a double DPS scenario. So this is coming in at number 4. Surprisingly, things still just get better from this point. I mean, I would almost thought this is going to be number 1, but coming in at number 4. Number 3, we've got the Mage Rogue. I was a bit hesitant as to which spec of Mage would be the best for this. In my mind, subtlety is mandatory for the rogue spec. It's just going to provide you a lot more reset potential and healing in stealth through talents. This is going to allow it to recover a lot easier. This one's great because you can just kind of run away from a fight, sit down, drink, reset your health. This has been a classic double DPS composition. In my mind, it's just getting even better. As Fire Mage, if you run Night Fae, you can also get access to the charge stun. So you could start the fight with a charge stun into a triple cheap shot setup or a kidney shot from a rogue. I don't know who's surviving that, honestly. And Night Fae Fire Mage is really good. I actually think Night Fae could end up being a strong pick for Mage in general because of the Covenant ability allowing you to basically reset your cooldowns. So you just stand still and almost like cooldown evocate, and then your cooldowns come back and you can just pump out even more damage. So just get in there right away, pop combustion, try and just block and load, take somebody down. If they don't die in that charge stun into kidney shot, run away, reset it with the Night Fae, get right back into it, and then finish the job. So it's like fast forward Rogue Mage, and Rogue Mage has been a staple of double DPS 2s. It's still easily one of the best and most fun compositions that you can go for. And I think you could make it work with any of the specializations. I just put them in order here of what I think would be the most fun or the most successful. So Fire, Arcane, and Frost is last. Fire for its immediate upfront instant damage. Arcane for its ability to just avoid a fight and never die. Frost also has good immediate damage as Fire, but I don't know what it is about it. It's just as soon as you've got no cooldowns, your instant damage kind of goes completely off. Fire has at least got something, and it's much easier to reset its instant damage. But I could see all three specs being viable in this composition. Moving into the number 2 slot here, we've got the Hunter Feral. This isn't a new double DPS 2v2 comp, but it still retains all of the same potency that it has in Battle for Azeroth, if not even more. It's very important for the Feral Druid in these kind of melee comps to run leader of the pack as an honor talent so that your melee attacks also heal you, and the hunters want to play with leech pets so that the leech effects are also healing the hunter up. Again, this is a composition that you start from stealth with camouflage and with prowl for the druid, so you get a surprise attack and you always have the upper hand or the advantage because you're attacking from stealth, and it has more reset potential than the rogue mage because the feral druid functions as a healer. You still have mortal wounds from the hunter. This is one where I feel like survival would be better in a double DPS scenario. Again, I feel like I'm making that assessment more so because it seems like why would they leave Marks as strong as it is, at least when it comes to arena, and survival is still really good at the moment, and this has been the composition to do it with, and it's basically just getting enhanced. It's one of the best double DPS 2v2 comps for a long time, and it's getting even better, so this is one that I can't not recommend. Basically, I'm very excited to see how it plays out. We've got one more slot, the numero uno. Who's gonna guess it? Down in the comments down below is my guess without cheating. I see people cheating. They like skip to the end and say this is number 1. So without cheating, what do they think is going to be the number 1? Well, if you just take away the healer, what are the best DPS specs in the game? We're coming in at the number 1 with Shadow Priest Rogue. Now this one may fall off, and you may really want to take this with a grain of salt because these specs are so good that they got targets on their heads. Like, you may want to be hesitant, but this is one that is really fun. It is super aggressive. You don't get the same kind of stealth start. Now I'm actually wondering if I should have put it on number 1. Maybe it's not number 1, but I feel like it is. You've got life swap, so the rogue can use Cloak of Shadows, and while Cloak of Shadows is active, if you life swap into it, the rogue takes no damage, and the priest goes back to full health, and the priest is normally a target. This combination of cooldowns allows the team to sort of just regenerate and keep rolling off of its momentum. It has a lot of reset potential. A big healer's threat is basically what it is when you open against a team with a healer, you blind their healer that normally have to trinket it because blinds a really long crowd control, and if they trinket it, immediately switch to the healer, you got yourself a KO, pretty easy win. Or vice versa, you start with a sap on the DPS, open on the healer. If they trinket the stun lock, you blind them and kill their DPS. So it's a little bit more all or nothing, but with how much damage output Subtlety Rogues and Shadow Priests have, and a little bit reset potential and longevity between the two specializations, I think it's one that you will likely have a lot of success with and a lot of fun. And that's what it comes down to, right? For the double DPS 2v2 meta is that you're doing this for more or less for a challenge to try and really get these resets going on. It's completely different vibe really when you're playing arena and there's no healer. I'm curious to see if any triple DPS compositions end up making their way out of the woodwork in 3v3, but in 2v2 I see it having a lot of potential. So if you're interested in undertaking this challenge and going after the double DPS 2v2 meta, consider these. If you've got any ideas for compositions, leave them down in the comments below. If you like this video, please leave it with a like. If you like this content, I'm uploading every day, so please do consider subscribing. I'm going to have links to videos with tier lists, links to class recommendations. I'm doing my best to provide as much information as I can for Shadowlands so that when it comes out, you can be as prepared as possible and start looking for friends. What classes should they be playing, and building these synergies together and making sure that you're having fun. That's the main goal. So if that sounds good to you, leave me with a little subscribe here. It's absolutely free. Just click that button and I will see you in the next video. Thank you very much for watching.